Rowan pulled his gun, heart racing. "Run!" They bolted through the woods, the rain blinding, thunder cracking. Behind them, the faintest sound of footsteps followed. Not running, just walking, unbothered, patient. They reached the cabin, slammed the door, locked it. Max backed against the wall, panting. Okay, officially terrified. What the hell was that? Clara collapsed into a chair. I told you he was watching." Rowan said nothing. He stared out into the storm. Because in that brief second, when the lightning struck and lit up the woods, he had seen the face, and it wasn't unfamiliar. It was the same face in one of the photographs, next to Simon, smiling, the man who might have killed him. But how was he still here, and why was he following Clara? Rowan turned to her. "Tell me everything, from the beginning." Her eyes brimmed with something between fear and shame. And finally, she began. The fire had nearly died, casting the cabin in a dim orange glow. Rain still battered the roof like restless fingers, and the wind shrieked through the cracks. Rowan sat across from Clara, his notepad open, pen ready. Max hovered nearby, shotgun in hand now, eyes fixed on the window. Clara stared into the flames, her voice low and unsteady. "His name is Elias. I met him before Simon, a year before, maybe more." Rowan leaned forward. "The man in the photo?" She nodded. "At first he was charming, intelligent. Said he worked in private intelligence. Freelance stuff. Never gave me straight answers, but I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. But you found out anyway," Rowan said. Clara gave a humorless smile. "Eventually, yes. I overheard things, saw names on papers he never meant for me to see. Things about people being watched, recorded, controlled. He told me they were just assets. But they were people, Rowan. People like Simon." Max frowned. "So how does Simon fit into this?" "He was on their list. I don't know why exactly. Elias said Simon was compromised, but I never knew what that meant. He was paranoid too, always looking over his shoulder. Elias said Simon couldn't be trusted, but he wouldn't explain. Just kept saying he was dangerous." Rowan's brows furrowed. "Dangerous? How?" Clara shook her head. "He didn't explain. Just made me choose. He wanted me to keep tabs on Simon, pretend I was interested, gain his trust. I was supposed to find something, but I couldn't do it. I started falling for him." "You were spying on him," Rowan said flatly. "At first, yes. But then it became real. And when Elias found out, everything changed. He said I had switched sides. That I was compromised now, too." Max muttered, "Real charming guy." Clara rubbed her eyes, exhausted. "That's when Simon and I ran. Changed numbers, changed names. We came here. But Elias, he always knew he was never far behind." Rowan leaned back. "So you think Elias killed Simon?" "I don't know. But I know Simon was terrified before he died. He said Elias was close. Said he'd seen him in the woods at night. Said if anything happened to him, I had to bury the box. Hide the truth." Max peered through the window. "Well, if Elias is out there, we can't just sit here like bait." "No," Rowan agreed. "We need to move, but not yet. He's expecting panic. We wait for the storm to ease. Then we go. Fast and quiet." He looked to Clara. "What Else did Simon tell you before he died? She hesitated. Just one thing, he said, don't trust the badge. Rowan stilled. Max turned. What the hell does that mean? Clara shook her head. I don't know. I thought maybe he was paranoid, but now I'm not so sure. There was silence. The wind howled again. Then, a knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps on the front door. Max jumped. No way, nope, I'm not answering that. Rowan crept toward the door, gun raised. He didn't open it, just looked through the peephole. No one, just rain. Then he noticed something on the porch. A single envelope. He opened the door a crack and grabbed it. Inside was a photograph. Rowan standing outside the cabin earlier that morning, speaking with Max, and a note. I'm always close. Clara began to tremble. Rowan closed the door gently and turned back to them. He's not just watching. He's playing. Max looked ill. We need backup. We need... A sudden crack of thunder cut him off, and then the power came back on. For a moment, all 3 froze. The lights blinked to life. So did the cabin's ancient radio in the corner. It said, hissed with static, then a voice. Detective Rowan, you should have left her. Now it's too late. Rowan lunged for the radio, ripping the cord from the socket. But the message had already landed. Max backed away, whispering. That was his voice. Clara stared at the floor. He's coming. Rowan looked at both of them, his voice steady. Now. Then we don't wait, we move. Now. Max nodded. Clara stood shakily. They packed fast. Essentials, the wooden box, weapons. Outside. The storm was starting to break, but the woods were still dark. The trail muddy and slick. As they stepped out into the night, Rowan looked back once more at the cabin. Something told him they'd be returning, but not alive, if they stayed. They moved as one, disappearing into the tree line. But from the cabin's second-story window, behind a cracked pane of glass, a silhouette watched them go. The trees closed in quickly. Rain dripped from the saturated branches, creating a constant whisper above them as they pushed through the undergrowth. Their flashlights cut narrow paths through the gloom, but the shadows moved strangely, always just outside the beam. Rowan led, his gun in one hand and the wooden box tucked securely in his backpack. Clara walked in the middle, soaked to the bone, her eyes darting at every sound. Max brought up the rear, shotgun gripped tightly, glancing behind them every few steps. Are we heading to your car? Max asked through gritted teeth. No, Rowan said without looking back. Too far, too exposed. There's a ranger outpost about a mile northeast. If we make it there, we can call for help. Real help. Clara winced. Do you trust the badge? Rowan hesitated, then said, I trust certain people, not all of them. But the outpost has a landline. No signal interference. That's our best shot. Max grunted. Assuming we don't get picked off like characters in a damn slasher film before then. A branch cracked in the distance. All 3 stopped. Rowan held up a hand. The woods went silent. No footsteps. No voice. But something was out there. Watching. Rowan motioned for them to keep moving. They pressed on. The terrain grew steeper, more tangled. The air was thick with rot and moss. Every breath damp and heavy. Mud sucked at their boots. Then, suddenly, Clara stopped. I know this place. she whispered. Rowan turned. What? Clara pointed to a tree with a carving in the bark, a strange symbol, like a triangle with a line through it. He brought me here once. Elias said this was where the truth lives. I didn't understand it then. Max looked uneasy. And now? Clara's face darkened. I think it's where he buried things he didn't want found. Rowan checked his compass. We're off course. This isn't the way to the outpost. Clara's eyes were distant. He's leading us. He wants us to come here. Max cursed. Then let's turn around. No, Rowan said. We're too far in. If we backtrack, we'll expose ourselves again. We find higher ground, get our bearings. They continued, climbing a small rise covered in slick leaves and moss. At the top, the forest opened slightly, revealing a clearing. At the center stood a stone structure, half-collapsed, ancient, perhaps a root cellar, maybe a forgotten chapel. But more alarming than the building were the lights, tiny lanterns, hung from low branches. Dozens of them, flickering in the dark. Max raised his shotgun. Hell no. Clara stepped forward slowly. He used to talk about this place. Called it the Hollow. Rowan scanned the area. Stay close. As they approached, the structure revealed more. Carvings deep into the stone. Symbols repeated over and over. Not random. Ritualistic. And in front of the structure was another photograph, pinned to a tree with a rusted nail. Rowan pulled it free. It was of him, but much younger, at least 10 years ago. Standing in front of a courthouse, smiling, Clara gasped. That's from the case, the Arnett trial. That's you, isn't it? Rowan nodded slowly. Yeah, but I've never seen this photo before. It's not public. Max looked between them. What the hell is this guy? Some kind of stalker archivist? Clara shook her head. No, he has access, real access. I don't know how, but he always knows more than he should. Thunder rumbled in the distance, slower now. The worst of the storm was passing. That's when Rowan spotted the door, set into the earth behind the structure. Wooden, old, reinforced with metal bands, slightly ajar. Down there, he muttered. That's where he wants us to go. Max grabbed his arm. No way. That's a trap. I know, Rowan said. But the box, the files, everything points here. Clara stepped forward, trembling. Simon mentioned this door. He said Elias buried something down there. Something he was too afraid to destroy. Rowan knelt and pushed it open. Stale air escaped, thick with earth and something older. Something wrong. Stone steps descended into darkness. Rowan turned on his flashlight, then he turned to the others. We don't have to go in, but if we leave now, he wins. Whatever's down there, it's what this has all been about. Clara swallowed hard. Then we go, Max muttered under his breath. We are definitely going to die. They descended. The stairs creaked but held. The air grew colder with each step. The walls were stone and dirt, with wooden supports barely holding the weight above. After what felt like an eternity, the tunnel opened into a small room. Inside were filing cabinets, old and rusted, a projector screen, shelves filled with VHS tapes, photos, cassette recordings. Clara stared, horrified. It's a vault of people, of secrets. Rowan stepped toward one of the cabinets and pulled it open. Inside were files, thousands of them, each labeled with a name, and next to every file, a photo, a location, and a symbol, the same triangle with the line through it. He opened one, his Itaoita's own name. Inside, his address, his family, old case notes, things even he had forgotten. "This is a blackmail bunker," Rowan said softly. "He's been collecting for years, everyone, anyone." Max turned slowly. "There's a tape player over here." Rowan walked over and pressed play. At first, static, then a voice. "If you're hearing this, then I've already lost control. My name is Simon Keller. And Elias, he was never working alone. He's part of something larger, something older. He called it the third signal. If you hear it, you're already marked." Rowan looked to Clara. She was pale. Then, from the tunnel behind them, footsteps, slow, measured, coming closer. Max lifted his shotgun. "Get ready." Rowan killed the tape. Everything went still, and then the power in the vault turned on. Rowan blinked in shock, and behind them the projector whirred to life. A film began to play, black and white, grainy. It showed Elias, much younger, sitting in a chair speaking to someone off camera. They'll never believe her. That's the beauty of it. You turn the truth into a story and it becomes fiction. That's how you erase people. Make them seem crazy, unreliable. They stop listening. The film stopped. The tunnel behind them was now empty. No footsteps. No figure. But they all felt it. He was here. No one breathed. The silence in the vault was so complete that even the rain outside seemed distant, like a memory. Max aimed his shotgun toward the tunnel entrance, finger tight on the trigger. "Where the hell did he go?" he whispered. Rowan stepped away from the projector. "He wanted us to see that. It was a message." Clara stood frozen, her eyes locked on the wall where the film had just played. "He's still trying to control the story." Rowan turned to the rows of files. "This place, it's not just blackmail. It's a confession, or a backup plan, or both." He opened another cabinet. The names inside were local. Judges, police, teachers. People who disappeared, people who went quiet. Clara pointed toward a metal filing case marked with tape. "That one," she said. "That's Elias's handwriting." Rowan opened it. Inside, handwritten journals, sketches, symbols, newspaper clippings dating back 50 years. Photographs of victims, some of whom Rowan recognized from old missing persons cases. At the very bottom, wrapped in plastic, was a cassette tape labeled simply, "Signal 3, don't play without protection." Max frowned. "What does that mean? Protection?" Rowan carefully turned the cassette over. There was a note taped to the back, recorded from live signal. Causes hallucinations, fear responses, and in rare cases, death. Use insulated headphones. Do not listen alone. Clara took a step back. This is what he was talking about. The third signal. It's not just a name, it's real. Rowan nodded. "We're taking this with us, all of it if we can." Max looked toward the entrance again. "Assuming we make it out." Suddenly the lights flickered, then held steady, then flickered again, faster this time, and then darkness. Everything shut off. The flashlight beams stuttered as Rowan and Max switched them back on. Clara's had died. "I think something's..." messing with the battery, Max muttered. From the hallway there was a noise, low, strange, like the sound of a metal pipe dragging across stone. Rowan turned toward it, heart pounding. Then, a voice. But it wasn't Elias, it was distorted. Too slow, like a tape played at the wrong speed. "You brought the box, didn't you?" Rowan stepped backward, hand on the backpack. "Clara, take this." He passed the bag to her. "If anything happens, run. Head northeast." Clara clutched the pack. "You're not coming?" "I'm going to stall him, buy you time." Max grabbed Rowan's arm. "No, we stick together. That's how we survive." Then the voice came again, clearer now, from everywhere. At once. The third signal is not sound, it's memory. Rowan spun around. The tapes on the shelves began to move. Not shake. Move. Deliberately, as if pulled by invisible hands. One by one they fell to the floor and opened. Film strips unrolled across the dirt, coiling like snakes. Clara screamed as one of the strips slithered toward her foot. Rowan pulled her away. Max fired into the air. The sound thundered through the stone room, deafening but ineffective. The film strip stopped. The lights turned back on, and standing in the tunnel entrance was Elias, soaked, pale, smiling. But something was wrong. His eyes. They weren't just wide. They were filled with light. Unnatural. Like glass reflecting fire. And when he spoke, his voice came not from his mouth, but from behind them. Through the projector speaker. "You finally opened the box, and now you see this was never about me." Rowan raised the gun. "Stay back." Elias took a step forward. "Why would I do that? I brought you here for this moment, all of it. Clara, the files, the bunker. You're the last piece." Max stepped forward. "You're not walking out of here." Elias smiled wider, then dropped. Something on the floor. It was a small black radio receiver. And from it the signal began to play. Low at first. A pulsing rhythmic tone. Not music. Not even static. It was something else. Something alive. Clara gasped and fell to her knees, clutching. Her head, Rowan shouted, "Get away from it!" Max rushed forward and smashed the receiver with the butt of his shotgun. It burst apart, and immediately the air shifted. Clara took a shuddering breath. Rowan helped her up. "We have to go. Now!" But when they turned to the tunnel, Elias was gone. Again. Max looked around. "He's playing games." Rowan grabbed a box of tapes. "Let's end the game." They fled the vault, carrying what they could. The stairs seemed longer this time, every creak louder than the last. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the fog had rolled in. Thick and white, it blanketed the forest floor like a silent flood. Visibility dropped to a few feet. Rowan turned to Clara. "Follow my voice, no matter what." They moved quickly, silently, through the trees. The forest no longer felt like Earth, more like a dream. Max muttered, "We're not alone." Rowan kept moving. "Don't stop, just keep going." Suddenly, a child's voice echoed from the mist. "Clara, Clara, come play with us." Clara froze. "No," she whispered. "Not again." Max grabbed her hand and yanked her forward. The voice followed. So did others. Dozens. A chorus of whispers, laughter, and weeping. They pressed through until a shape appeared through the fog. A structure. The Ranger outpost. Rowan ran ahead, yanked the door open, and ushered them inside. Max slammed. The door shut. It locked with a loud click, and just like that, the voices vanished. Silence. Inside, the air was stale but safe. A landline sat on a desk in the corner. A map on the wall. Emergency supplies in a metal locker. Rowan went to the phone, picked it up. A dial tone. He exhaled. We made it. Clara sat on the floor, her hands still trembling. It's not over. Rowan nodded. I know. He dialed. The line clicked. A voice answered. Ranger Station 3. This is Deputy Rowan Mitchell. I need backup. Immediate. Send everything. A pause. Then the voice on the other end said, Of course, Deputy, we've been expecting your call. Rowan froze. The voice, was Elias from the phone. Rowan dropped it like it was on fire. Max backed away from the window. Outside, the fog thickened. Shapes were moving through it. Max stared out the window, jaw clenched. There are people out there. No, Clara whispered, eyes wide with dread. They're not people. Rowan stepped back from the phone like it might lunge at him. The line had gone dead again. Just a soft hum like breathing in reverse. Outside, the fog writhed like a living thing. Shapes moved slowly, deliberately. Too tall, too thin. Their outlines were vague, like the figures on old film reels that hadn't been fully developed. Then one of them turned. Its face had no features, just blankness. And still, it moved toward the station. Max turned to Rowan. We can't stay. Here. Rowan grabbed the ranger station's keys from the wall. There's a maintenance truck out back. We don't have the box, Clara suddenly cried. Her eyes darted wildly. Where is it? The bag. Rowan looked around. His heart dropped. It wasn't there. They had left the backpack with the tapes, the cassette, the journals, back in the vault. Clara's breathing turned shallow. We're screwed. If someone else finds it, if Elias takes it back. Rowan stepped toward her. We are not going back. But, no. We have what matters, our memories, what we saw, and we're getting out of here. Max was already unlocking the back door. Keys say Unit 14. That's the green truck behind. The shed. They slipped out into the fog, flashlights low. The mist was suffocating, so thick it felt like walking through cotton soaked in water. The world was gray, colorless, and utterly silent. Then, a scream. Behind them. Female. Clara spun. It came again. Distant, and this time, familiar. Is that my mother? She asked in a dead whisper. No, Rowan said. That's Elias using your mind. Keep moving. Clara hesitated. A figure stepped out from the fog behind her. It wore her mother's face, half burned, hair wet, eyes glowing. Clara, it said in a sing-song voice. You left me. You never came home. Clara turned, frozen, as the thing reached for her. Max shoved her forward. Go! Rowan fired his last shell at the figure. It hit, but didn't fall. Instead, the thing twisted, as if time moved around it differently, and vanished in a slow blur. They found the truck. Max jumped in first, hot-wired the engine in seconds. Rowan yanked open the passenger door. Clara, get in! But Clara had turned toward the woods. Clara! Rowan screamed. She stood there, eyes vacant, swaying slightly. "I hear them," she said. "They're calling me by my real name." Rowan ran to her, grabbed her shoulders. "There's no other name. You're here, with us." She looked into his eyes, and for a moment, he saw nothing behind them. Then her body went limp. He dragged her to the truck and slammed the door shut behind them. Max floored it. The tires skidded in the wet dirt, spinning, catching. Then the truck launched forward. Fog. Peeling back like skin from bone. They drove in silence at first. No one dared to speak. Clara sat slumped between them, eyes half closed, whispering nonsense. Max finally said, "That wasn't her mom. That wasn't anything human." "No," Rowan agreed. "They're using our memories." "Feeding off what?" "We regret." "What the hell is the third signal then?" Rowan stared out the window thinking. "It's not sound," he said. "Not light. It's deeper, like a frequency buried inside your thoughts. Something that unravels you from the inside." They kept driving. Eventually, the fog began to lift. Light broke through the trees. They crossed the old forest perimeter and hit the highway. Rowan checked his phone. Signal restored. Max exhaled. "We made it." But Rowan wasn't so sure. He opened the glove box. Inside, sealed in plastic, was the cassette tape, the same one they'd left behind, labeled Signal 3, Don't Play Without Protection. Rowan picked it up slowly. Max. Max looked over. His face went pale. That wasn't in here before. Clara suddenly gasped, awake. "He's not done." Rowan stared at the tape. A new note had been added, in handwriting he hadn't seen before. "You're the broadcaster now. Play it, or the signal dies with you." The truck's tires hummed against the highway as the sun peeked through low clouds, casting weak orange light on the wet road. But inside the cab, the air was cold, brittle. Rowan held the cassette like it was a ticking bomb. Clara leaned forward, eyes wide. "That tape, we left it in the vault." Max stared straight ahead. "I didn't bring it, I swear." Rowan turned the tape over in his hands. The label was smeared, like someone had tried to erase the writing and failed. Beneath the original message, Signal 3, Don't Play Without Protection, another message had appeared, burned into the plastic. "It's already inside you." Rowan whispered, "How?" Clara's breathing was fast, shallow. "He doesn't need the physical object anymore. He just needs you to remember it. If you remember the sound, if you heard even a second of it, it lives in you." Rowan looked at her. "Did we already play this?" She didn't answer. Max tightened his grip on the wheel. "Where do we go now?" Rowan turned the tape over again and again. The plastic felt hot. "We can't take this to a town. We can't bring this to people." Clara nodded slowly. "If it spreads, there's no going back." Rowan thought hard. There was a radio tower back in Osbridge. The university used to run tests out of it before it shut down. "We destroy the tape there, burn it. Inside the old signal room." Max glanced at him. "And what if that's what it wants?" Rowan met his eyes. "Then we find out. But I'm not waiting to see what happens if we do nothing." They drove north, winding along empty country roads that once felt familiar. Now every tree, Every bend in the road, every flock of black birds overhead felt like it was watching them. Clara began humming softly, a tune none of them recognized. Her fingers tapped the rhythm on her leg involuntarily. "Clara," Rowan said gently. "What's that song?" She blinked, confused. I don't know." Her eyes clouded over. It's like it was always there. They reached Osbridge by mid-morning. The town had been mostly abandoned since the flooding 10 years ago. Rows of shuttered shops, broken windows, empty homes overtaken by vines and rust. At the edge of town, the old radio tower loomed. Gray steel, rusted stairs winding upward to a dull sky. Beside it, a low concrete building squatted in silence. They parked the truck at the edge of the cracked lot. "Let's finish this," Rowan said. Inside, the building was dark and musty. Mold curled the edges of old acoustic, panels on the walls, cables hung like veins from the ceiling. Max found the main recording room and flipped the switch. Nothing. Rowan found a backup generator. With a sputter and a growl, it coughed to life. A few dim lights flickered on. The machines groaned awake. Rowan held up the tape. "This ends now." He slid it into the reel-to-reel deck and pushed record on a second deck. He intended to trap the signal, record it onto dead tape, then burn both. But as soon as the playhead touched the magnetic strip, sound flooded the room. A sound none of them had ever heard before. It wasn't music. It wasn't speech. It was like memory, emotion, and time itself melting together. Max fell to his knees, Clara screamed. And Rowan. Rowan heard his brother's voice. "Why didn't you come back for me?" Rowan's eyes blurred. He wasn't in the studio anymore. He was in the forest, the night of the accident, running. Blood on his hands, his brother's face pale and broken, calling for help as Rowan ran. "I'm sorry," Rowan whispered. "I didn't. No, I thought you were already gone." But the forest twisted. His brother's face changed. It became Elias. Elias smiled. "You're the signal now." Rowan jerked back to the present. The tape had stopped spinning. Smoke curled from the machine. The deck was melted. Max groaned on the floor, blood dripping from his ears. Clara rocked in the corner, whispering a number over and over. 317, 317, 317. Rowan crawled to the machine and yanked the ruined tape out. It was warped, blackened, but still whole. He staggered to the metal trash barrel and lit a flare. Flames roared up. He threw the tape in. It sizzled, warped, and finally cracked apart. The eyes, moment it split, the lights in the building exploded, plunging them into darkness. Then, silence. No sound, not even the wind. Outside, the fog lifted fully. The town felt empty, but calmer. They waited, afraid to speak, afraid they might hear the signal again. Eventually, they emerged, blinking in the light of early afternoon. Rowan looked at the sky. He couldn't feel it anymore. The hum, the pull, the pressure in his skull. It was gone. Max clutched his head. "Is it over?" Rowan didn't answer. He just looked at Clara. She was staring at her hands. "They're cold," she whispered. "Like I'm not really here." She looked up at Rowan. "I don't think we destroyed it. I think we just helped it move." They didn't speak on the drive back. The silence wasn't comforting. It was oppressive. Max stared out the window, his face pale like someone who'd looked too long into something he shouldn't have seen. Clara hadn't said a word since they left the tower. She sat curled up in the back seat, murmuring fragments of things under her breath. Numbers, names, sounds that didn't belong together. And Rowan couldn't shake the feeling that something was still with them. He kept glancing in the rear-view mirror, not to check for cars, but to make sure they were alone. But sometimes, just for a second, he swore he saw a fourth figure in the back seat. A blur, a shadow with too many eyes. He never said it out loud. By the time they reached the edge of Clara's family property, the trees were leaning in close to the road, their wet branches nearly brushing the windshield. The sky was a blank gray dome, and the air felt like it had stopped moving entirely. Clara finally looked up. "We shouldn't have left the forest." Max turned to her. "What do you mean?" She shook her head slowly. The signal, it wasn't bound to the tape. It wasn't even bound to Elias. It's older than that, older than people. Rowan's voice was low. "So what's it want?" Clara stared straight ahead. A way back in. The truck rolled to a stop in front of the cabin. Something was off. The air smelled too clean, like disinfectant and hot plastic. All the windows were... But no, a black bird was sitting on the roof, motionless. Rowan stepped out first. No sounds. No wind, no birds. Just the crunch of gravel beneath their boots. Inside, the house was still, but there were signs of something unnatural. Clara's family photos were gone from the walls. The wallpaper had peeled in strange, swirling patterns. And in the living room, someone had arranged the furniture into a perfect circle around a single item. A reel-to-reel recorder. Max stepped back. "No, we burned it." Rowan moved closer. It wasn't the same machine from the tower. This one was older, pre-war. It had wires sticking out like veins, a metal plate engraved with strange symbols around the playhead. Something was inside it, a new tape. Clara's hand trembled as she pointed to it. It used our memories, our thoughts. That's how it rebuilds. Rowan touched the edge of the tape. It was warm, vibrating softly, like a heartbeat. Then the door creaked open behind them. Footsteps. They turned and saw Elias. Not as he had died, but as something else. Taller, thin, smiling. His eyes were glassy, reflecting too much light. "Thank you," he said. Rowan froze. "You're not Elias." The thing tilted its head. "No, but he was a good doorway." It looked at Clara. "And you held me the longest. You listened better than the rest. You let me in before the others even knew." Clara stepped back, her voice shaking. "I didn't know what I was doing." "You do now," it said. Gently, the tape deck clicked. Rowan lunged for it, but it was too late. Sound. Instant, sharp, and suffocating. It wasn't loud. It was low, deep. A vibration that buzzed through their teeth and into their bones. The walls warped. The light bent. Max dropped to the floor, convulsing. Clara collapsed to her knees, clutching her head. Rowan stood frozen, blood trailing from his nose. In his mind, he saw a spiral, a black spiral pulling inward. It whispered, "You are the broadcast." Now he felt something press against his thoughts, pushing, wanting in. He clenched his jaw and focused on silence, on emptiness, on Elias's real voice. The night Elias died. The real one. Calling from the tree line. "Help me." That had been real. Rowan had run. He'd run and never looked back. This was his second chance. He stumbled forward through the distortion. His legs barely worked, but he made it to the recorder. He ripped the tape free. It screamed. The room shook, the walls cracked. He shoved the tape into the fireplace, lit the matches with shaking hands. It burned fast, like it wanted to be destroyed. As it cracked and melted, the sound began to fade. The walls stilled. The spiral receded. Max coughed from the floor. Clara sat back, eyes wide and wet. And Elias, or what had worn him, was gone. Only ashes remained. They sat in the dim room, breathing hard. Clara looked at Rowan. "You stopped it." He wasn't sure, but he nodded anyway. Outside, the wind returned. A soft, natural breeze rustling the trees. Birds sang in the distance. It was the first natural sound they'd heard in days. Rowan stood, legs unsteady. "We bury the ashes, we salt the ground, and then we burn the house." Max nodded slowly. "And then?" Clara whispered. "Then we forget." Rowan didn't answer, because deep down he knew forgetting was exactly what it wanted. The cabin sat in an unnatural silence, the rain still falling outside, but the tension inside louder than any storm. Detective Rowan stood near the fireplace, eyes heavy with everything Clara had confessed. Across from him, Max paced slowly, his face pale and hands twitching in nervous loops. Clara sat curled in a blanket, her damp hair clinging to her neck, her eyes hollow from exhaustion. "And fear? You said Simon was working with them," Rowan said finally, voice low. "But you never told me what they wanted from him." Clara looked up, barely a whisper on her lips. "They wanted him to disappear." Max stopped pacing. "Disappear? Like witness protection?" "No," she said. "Like vanish. As if he never existed." She reached into her backpack and retrieved a folded paper, not one they'd seen before. She handed it to Rowan. It was a map. Not of the area, but something older, hand-drawn. Coordinates scrawled in the corner, symbols etched in margins. "What is this?" Clara hesitated. Simon found it in a shipment he wasn't supposed to open. Said it belonged to someone ancient. He said they were digging, looking for things they shouldn't be touching. Artifacts, writings, proof of something old buried under this town. Rowan blinked, scanning the odd, almost ritualistic markings. "What kind of proof?" Clara's voice wavered. "A different kind of power. Not money, not politics, influence on people, on memory. On the way we see reality." Max gave a dry chuckle. "All right, that's it. I'm out. You dragged me through the woods, nearly got me shot, and now we're talking about ancient conspiracies?" Clara's eyes turned deadly serious. Simon didn't believe it either, until they came for him. Until he started seeing people that shouldn't exist, hearing voices in static, feeling watched every moment of the day. "Okay," Rowan said, trying to ground the room again. "Let's say I believe you. Let's say they killed Simon because he knew too much. What do they want now?" Clara's hands trembled. They think I still have something. The map? No, his journal. It's not here. I hid it somewhere they can't reach. Rowan leaned in. Where? Clara looked at both men, then whispered, The church, under the baptismal font in a metal box. Max raised an eyebrow. The church we passed on the way in? She nodded. That's where he'd go when he felt safest. When he thought they were too close, it's the only place they wouldn't burn. Rowan made a decision then. We're going. Tonight? Max asked, stunned. Now, before they come back. It was a 20-minute drive through mud and flooded roads. The old church loomed in the mist like a forgotten monument, peeling white paint, shattered windows, its bell tower leaning awkwardly as if mourning the congregation that no longer came. They entered through the side, flashlights sweeping across pews swallowed by dust. The altar still held remnants of faith, rotting hymnals, a crooked cross, and cobwebs glinting like silver. Clara led them to the front. Here, she said, dropping to her knees before the cracked baptismal font. Rowan watched as she pried open a loose tile beneath it. The sound echoed. Max crouched beside her, helping lift the rusted box. Rowan opened it slowly. Inside was a leather-bound journal, old, cracked, full of pages scribbled with chaotic handwriting, newspaper clippings, photographs, and symbols matching the map. The first page read, If you're reading this, I'm probably dead, but that doesn't mean you're safe. They don't just kill the body. They erase. The moment you see them, they start unraveling you. Rowan flipped through it, horror growing in his chest. Simon had tracked movements, recorded experiments, diagrams of devices built to read memory structures. Notes described human trials, people disappearing from records, entire families forgetting a loved one overnight. He'd scrawled names of officials, local businessmen, even clergy involved. They were building something, Rowan said. Here, under the town. Max paled. This is way above our pay grade, man. The church door slammed behind them. 3 figures stood silhouetted in the aisle. No flashlights, no sound, just wet coats and pale eyes. Clara gasped. It's them. Rowan shoved the journal into his coat. Go! They ducked behind pews as a shot rang out. Wood splintered near Max's head. Clara screamed, but Rowan grabbed her hand and pulled her through the side door leading to the rectory. We can't outrun them, she cried. No, Rowan said, but we can trap them. He pulled Max into the side hall and slammed the thick wooden door shut behind them. They rushed through a dusty corridor to the bell tower stairs. Rowan turned and kicked the support. For the archway, it cracked, then crumbled. A loud crash followed. That'll slow them down, he muttered. They climbed fast. The bell tower was narrow and rotting, but it gave them a view of the entire countryside. Fog stretched for miles. Lightning flashed, and in that flash, Rowan saw them. A dozen figures emerging from the woods, all moving toward the church. They're surrounding us, Max clutched the railing. We're screwed. Rowan turned to Clara. There's something else. You haven't told us everything. Clara backed away. I have. No, Rowan said, stepping closer. You're not just a victim. You were part of this once, until you turned on them. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't know what it was. They said it was research for defense, but it was mind control. They were testing it on people. On children, Max whispered. Jesus. I tried to leave, Clara said. But Simon, he stayed. Said he could change it from the inside. He thought exposing it would stop them. Rowan looked at the journal. This is enough. This gets us out of here. If we can make it back to the highway, I can get this into the hands of someone who'll blow it wide open. Suddenly, a loud hum rose in the air, not mechanical, not natural. It buzzed in their bones, their ears. The lights flickered even though there was no power. They're activating it, Clara said, horror in her voice. What? Max asked. The device. The one underground. It pulses through memories, deletes them. Rowan grabbed her shoulders. How do we stop it? She closed her eyes. We go where it started. The underground lab. It's beneath the field where the town's first well was dug. If we destroy it, we might stop the whole grid. Max groaned. A hidden lab. Of course there's a hidden lab. Rowan looked out the bell tower. Then, we move. Now. They escaped down the fire exit, slipping through the shadows. By some miracle, they made it to Rowan's truck. Mud splashed everywhere as they tore through flooded roads, following Clara's directions toward the old field. Behind the hardware store, the well was there, overgrown, ringed with stone. Beside it, a storm drain barely visible in the undergrowth. Max pried the grate open. A ladder descended into darkness. They climbed down. Beneath the surface, the tunnel widened. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. Steel doors lined the walls. It didn't look abandoned. It looked operational. Clara led them down a hall to a room marked Memory Core, authorized personnel only. Inside, machines hummed. A giant globe-like structure spun slowly, thin wires extending from it like metallic veins. Screens flickered with faces, names, timestamps. Rowan stepped closer. These are memories. They catalog them, Clara said. Steal them, alter them, replace them. Max backed away, eyes wide. So when someone disappears, they're not dead, Rowan realized. They're rewritten. Clara pointed to a central console. Destroy that and the web collapses. Rowan nodded. You two get clear. No way, Max said. We're in this together. Rowan opened the console panel and started yanking. Wires. Sparks flew. Suddenly, a voice behind them. Don't. They turned. A man stood there. The same man Rowan had seen in the photograph. The same face that watched from the woods. You have no idea what you're doing, he said. I know enough, Rowan said. The man raised a gun. Put it down. But Clara moved fast, grabbed a metal pipe and swung. The gun flew from his hand. Rowan tackled him. A brutal fight broke out. Fists, blood, screaming. Max dove for the gun, fired a shot into the wall. Sparks exploded. The machine. Behind them began to whine, its hum turning into a roar. Lights flickered. The entire room shook. Run! Rowan yelled. Clara grabbed the journal. They sprinted through the tunnel as the facility began collapsing behind them. They emerged just as the ground caved in. The entire field crumbled inward, a massive sinkhole swallowing the well, the drain, and everything beneath it. They stood in silence, panting, watching it all vanish. It was over, or so they thought. 2 weeks later, Rowan sat in his office, sipping bitter coffee, staring at a report. The facility? Gone. The town? Quiet. The journal? In federal hands. Max had taken a vacation. Clara was missing. Disappeared from the safe house. Rowan flipped through a set of surveillance photos he had requested. One showed a figure walking through a crowd in Chicago. The face? Clara. But the name on her ID wasn't. No records. No family. No past erased or willingly starting over. He picked up his phone to call Max, but stopped, because on his desk was a photograph. It hadn't been there this morning. It showed him, sleeping, in his bed, and on the back, written in Clara's delicate hand, "Some memories are too dangerous to keep, but I'll always remember you. C." Rowan looked toward his office door. It was slightly ajar, and he was sure he had locked it.